The ignition module works with the flywheel to produce the electric current needed for the spark plug. The flywheel has two magnets mounted on it at specific locations. As the magnets pass by the ignition module, they induce an electric current within the ignition coil's windings. This current is sent to the spark plug at the precise time it is needed to ignite the air-fuel mixture inside the cylinder. Common symptoms of a bad ignition module are an engine that will not start, an engine that starts and runs, but then suddenly turns off, and the engine starts and runs, but then won't restart until it is cooled off. Replacing the ignition module is a repair that you can do yourself, and I'm going to show you how.
Hi, I'm Mark Socha.
Do-it-yourself repairs like these are easier than you might think. From lawn machines to cordless drills, kitchen mixers,
Outdoor grills.
our how-to videos walk you through each repair from start to finish. So doing it yourself means never having to do it alone.
Let's get started.
I'll begin by removing the upper shaft from the motor housing. Now remove the rear engine cover. Now remove the ignition switch. Now remove the starter housing. First I'll remove the 4 screws that secure the housing to the engine. And then the 4 screws that secure the recoil starter to the housing itself. I'll also remove the throttle cable from the carburetor. Now I have access to the ignition module, and I can remove it. I'll remove the spark plug wire from the spark plug, and then the 2 screws that secure the coil to the engine. Now I can install the new ignition coil. I'll remove the wiring harness from the old coil and transfer it over. As I install the coil, I need to set the gap between it and the flywheel. To do that, I've rotated the flywheel so the magnets will align with the coil. Then I use a spark plug gapping tool. This is just a plastic card that's thickness is 14 thousandths of an inch. I place the card between the magnets on the flywheel and the ignition coil. Now I'll re-secure the ignition module with the screws. As I secure the top of the ignition module, I need to remember to reattach the wire from the wiring harness. I'll leave this screw loose until I install the second screw. Now make sure that the coil is secured firmly against the gapping card and then tighten up the screws. Now I can remove the card. Now I can reinstall the starter housing onto the engine. As I do this, I need to keep in mind that this tab with the hole in it indicates the bottom of the starter assembly. So I'll rotate that around, keeping it as close to the bottom as possible, and then slide the housing over the engine. As I work the housing into place, again I need to align that starter assembly with the housing. To do that I use a punch. I'll rotate the starter around until I locate that hole on the plastic tab. Once I locate the hole, I'll place the punch in it, and that'll keep it aligned with the housing. Now it's just a matter of working the housing around until it aligns with the engine and slides into place. Once in place, I'll install 2 of the screws that secure the housing to the engine just to keep things aligned. Now I'll install the 4 screws that secure the starter assembly to the housing. With 2 of the screws installed, I can remove the punch and install the other 2. And now the last 2 screws that secure the housing to the engine. Now I'll reinstall the switch. I'll use a hook to pull the ignition wires out of the engine housing. And I'll reinstall the wires onto the back of the switch. Then I can press the switch back into the housing. Now I can reinstall the rear cover. Now I'll reinstall the shaft to the engine. I'll replace the spring over the cable, align the shaft with the housing, and insert it back in. Once it gets to this point, I need to align the cable with the fitting on the clutch. To do that, I'll rotate the trimmer head as I push the shaft back into the housing. Once it's aligned, I'll re-secure it with the anti-rotation screw and the clamp screw. And I'll reattach the throttle cable to the carburetor. And that's all it takes to install a new ignition module in your small engine. Be sure to check back often for new videos and expert advice. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up
And leave a comment.